Okay, ladies and gents, today is the day that we have all been dreading. We've been talking about today for a long time. So this meeting is happening right now. As I stream to you, UK's Keir Starmer is in a meeting with US President Joe Biden right now as I'm recording or streaming. I was hoping the meeting would be over by the time I got started, but it's still ongoing. But it is looking highly likely that the US is looking to approve their ATACMS missiles, which are their long-range missiles. And I don't say dreading it because obviously this would be a positive for Ukraine in their fight against Russia. But the reason I say we've been dreading it is because this would, if you remember Putin's infamous red line statement, this would drag very heavily the US, UK, and Europe, as it were, into war with Russia. And we've also got another statement out today regarding the joint exercise between Russia and China and what they have sort of, it's not official yet, it's not an official statement, but what they have very loosely said that if Russia is attacked with these long-range missiles, it could be that China then gets involved. Again, it's still very loose how they're putting out these statements, and you've got to sort of read between the lines of some of it. But this is taking place right now. Let's go to the shared screen and bring you up to date with all the official announcements here. So this is from just a few minutes ago then. Biden is signaling his openness to using these long-range missiles inside of Russia. Here's Keir Starmer and the president. Now, this is when they actually met previously on July 10th, but this is what's going on right now. They are having a meeting as we speak. We had this out yesterday then, and it does look to be the case. UK reportedly has approved, because they had a meeting with Zelensky, here's Anthony Blinken as well, of the US. They had a meeting with Zelensky and his cabinet, and we don't know because it was behind closed doors, but Zelensky left very happy, and he said we got what we came for. So what does that mean? I think they have approved, the UK has approved using the Storm Shadow for Ukraine. If that's the case, then that is why Putin has just put out this very concerning statement, and he said that this would draw his red line if what has been said is true. Let's have a look at that then. Let's go over to Sky News and we'll catch up on all of this. So long-range missile approval would put NATO, including the UK and US, at war with Russia. This is what Putin has said. This is from his official statement. He said that this would significantly change the nature of the Ukraine conflict and amount to nothing less than direct involvement of NATO countries. I won't play you the video because it's a bit slow, but I've highlighted the transcript of what was said here. He said that if the Ukraine is allowed to strike Russian territory, so deep inside Russian territory, with the Western-made long-range missiles, this would put NATO at war with Russia. He said it would significantly change the nature of the conflict. And Keir Starmer, who's in the meeting right now with Joe Biden, insisted the UK is not seeking conflict and that Ukraine is allowed to defend itself against a war started by Russia. Now, I was thinking about that statement today, and this thing popped into my head, which is an interesting one. And that was many years ago. I was just with a group of friends, and someone threw a rock, right? This group they were just idiots, kids, teenagers. One of them threw a rock, and it hit me on the arm and split my arm open. So, of course, I was not best pleased, went to have a chat, and I said, hey, who threw that rock? And the guy said, I wasn't aiming for you, I was just throwing rocks. Really sorry about that. But, of course, it's too late. The damage is done. He's split my arm open, and I've got blood all down my arm. And it sort of reminded me of this example here. I don't know why it popped into my head. And that is that Keir Starmer's saying, oh, no, we don't want any conflict with Russia. No. We're just providing the long-range missiles. And of course, Ukraine doesn't know how to use this technology. So it's like him saying, but look, the UK has nothing to do with this. If Russia, if you guys get these strikes by Ukraine, it hits all this, your infrastructure and everything else like that. Nothing to do with us whatsoever. But of course it is, inadvertently, it is to do. Now, I'm not getting into who's right or wrong with this example. What I'm simply saying is the UK or Keir Starmer will pull UK citizens into the conflict even more strongly than has been the case before. So this would have been a title like "This Changes Everything," one of those caps titles, because if this is approved, we're going to see a big shift in this conflict. Ukraine officials have been pleading for months for permission to fire the Western-supplied missiles, including the US ATACMS and the British Storm Shadows, deep into Russia. US President Joe Biden has limited the distance US-provided missiles can be fired over escalation concerns. However, the issue took on added urgency after Iran recently supplied ballistic missiles to Russia, according to the US. Now, this is an interesting one, and I am very much on the fence with this one, because we have this intelligence that says that Iran supplied the missiles. Iran has come out multiple times with statements saying, look, we have no issue with supplying missiles to Russia. They're our allies. But we haven't supplied these missiles. I mean, they seem very, very adamant about saying they haven't supplied it. Whether they have or not, I can't tell you. All we can see is the intel. It looks to be credible, but then why are they saying, no, we haven't? They've already been sanctioned to death, as it were. So it is a very interesting one. I'm on the fence. I don't really know what is going on there, but it would come up with a perfect excuse for the West to allow these long-range missiles to be used. But then that brings in more conflict. And we talked about this 2 years ago, and I laid out that sort of ladder, if you remember. And I said, first it'll be this, then it'll be that, then it'll be this, and then we'll have the trainers on the ground. And at the time it was said, we're never going to put these Western military trainers on the ground because that would escalate the conflict. And then they did it. They said they weren't going to supply tanks, and then they did it. They said they weren't going to supply any weapon systems, and then they did it. Weren't going to do missiles, and then they did it. Weren't going to do jets, and then they did it, right? So you can see where this is going. Eventually, I can't see this doing this U-turn that people keep telling me, oh, you're scaremongering. This is all going to stop, or this is going to U-turn soon enough. How is this going to U-turn? Someone please tell me, because it's like a steam train or a train. If you ever seen a train make an emergency stop, it doesn't just put the brakes on and like bang, stop. It takes a long time to slow down and stop. And that's the sort of thing you see with conflict as well. It doesn't just stop like that dead. It's and think of it, I know we're talking about two countries here, but it can be easily stopped by the leaders. The leaders can stop this. Actually, they could have done in 2022 and 2023 when those meetings took place. But we know Boris Johnson came into the first meeting and killed the peace deal, and then someone else came into the second meeting. So we know these things can take place, but will they is another question. And the answer is yes, they can. They can create a peace deal. It will be quite complex, but it can be done. But even if you break it down to a more personal level of human beings, where you might have conflict with another person, you can resolve that, and it's usually someone's out of integrity. You come to that person, you speak through what you did, what they did, etc. You can come to an arrangement and resolve it. So you can still see a resolution here, but is it going to happen? I can't see it. It looks as though there's a huge amount of warmongering going on. There's tons of money. If you see the numbers, it is mind-blowing for all the weapons and the weapon manufacturers and the shareholders. And look at who some of the shareholders are. I won't go into too much detail. There's a lot of restrictions on what I can say, unfortunately, on YouTube. But you want to just look at the money, follow the money, and you'll see what's happening here. I don't see this slowing down at all. I want to be very, very clear on that. So speaking to Russian state television on Thursday, Putin warned if Ukraine struck Russian territory with Western-made long-range missiles, it would mean nothing less than a direct involvement of NATO countries, the United States, and European countries in the war. This will be their direct participation, and this, of course, will significantly change the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that NATO countries, US, European countries, are at war with Russia. Just see that statement. That is what he said, that they are at war with Russia. If this is so, then bearing in mind the change of the conflict, we will make appropriate decisions based on the threats that will be created for us. This is really serious talk here. And David Lammy of the UK, the Defence Secretary, is saying UK missiles are vital to stop Putin. Ukraine must get what it needs to win as the crucial winter looms, says the Foreign Secretary. Well, look, let's just talk about that a second. Please drop in the comments what you think of his statement there. Russia is absolutely enormous. You see how many nukes they've got. You see their military might. I'm not saying their GDP is huge compared to other countries, but they have got a big military machine. They've got a decent-sized population. Every day, more young men turn 18 years old. They can keep enlisting, even with their losses. They can keep enlisting and training. How on earth is this tiny little country called Ukraine going to beat the might of Russia that we keep hearing? I mean, people have heard this so many times now. You only need to hear something 6 or 7 times for it to become true. We found that with World War II, a certain man, Goebbels. We won't say too much on that. So this is what we keep hearing over and over again, that this small country is going to defeat this larger country. How on earth is that going to take place? I don't see what other people see. Even analysts, these military analysts, keep saying that they're going to win. They just need to get this next weapon. And you'll notice it keeps saying, if we just had this, then we'll win the war. Well, they got that. Then they say, well, we just need this. Well, they've got that. Oh, we just need this. We got that. So what we're seeing is this it never ends. It will never end. There's no end to this situation. British forces, came out as well, have shadowed a Russian warships and planes in the past week. Now, this is just off the coast. Royal Navy followed attack submarine and corvette through the channel, and RAF jets were scrambled to monitor 2 aircraft. Here we go. Britain's armed forces have shadowed these warships just in the past week, and RAF jets were scrambled to monitor, and they have the imagery here, so we know this took place. We also had this out of the eye, and this was influential Putin ally calls for Russia to use nuclear weapons against NATO. Unbelievable. He said that they could launch a nuclear strike on a NATO country without triggering all-out war. And then there's a big, long, there's an article here on how this would take place, and it would de-escalate and all this other stuff. I just don't see how they think that is going to work out. But what we have just seen today is Russia has expelled 6 UK diplomats over spying allegations. Were they spying? I would be surprised. I think probably what's happening is this is just a response to what we've seen. Putin is obviously angry, and he's now doing, making things up like, someone's spying here, these 6 UK diplomats. I think he's probably just sort of flexing here, I think is the best way. FSB Security Service claims actions of the diplomats showed signs of reconnaissance and subversive work. They claim they had documents showing that the UK Foreign Office Department was responsible for Eastern Europe and Central Asia, involved in the coordination of escalation of international military political situation aimed at the strategic defeat of Russia. This is, of course, the claim from Russia. The UK Foreign Office did not immediately comment on the move, whose timing will be seen in London as a diplomatic warning shot by Putin. Yeah, I would say that's quite accurate, that it would happen today of all days. And of course, we know that Keir Starmer is in Washington right now, in this meeting right now. See if there's anything else. This is the meeting. It's still ongoing. Let's refresh the page here. Okay, so we've got a quick update. The UK's rejected the Russia spy claims, and this meeting is obviously still ongoing. We've got a summary here, but it doesn't look like the meeting has taken place yet. So we'll have to just keep monitoring this. But I'd love to know your thoughts on everything I've said today. Do you agree? Do you disagree? If you disagree, that is absolutely fine. As always, I do like to see if you have a different opinion to me. I'm always happy to shift my thought process and opinions if presented with some really good evidence or some good arguments from yourselves. And a quick one, when I did my video walk and talk yesterday, you'll probably see I left a comment. I put that comment on there that when I was talking, I said Turkey was an EU country. What I meant to say was that Turkey is an EU partner. It's a strategic partner. It's a huge trading partner. And someone else said they're not part of NATO. I assure you, Turkey are part of NATO. They have been part of NATO since 1952. And I went and double checked that just before I streamed here. But yeah, Turkey are a major partner of the EU, but they are not a member. So a quick correction on yesterday's stream. Apart from that, thank you so much for being online and being a subscriber here. Take care. God bless you and your families, and I'll see you on the next video.